What's up, guys? Welcome back to another whiteboard masterpiece. Tonight we're going to be breaking down the paths to the PGA Tour, the cost associated with each of these, and the difficulty in succeeding on each chosen path. There are three main ways to get to the PGA Tour. We're going to be leaving out PGA Tour U, which is a very new development, allowing some college players to play their way onto tour. Today, actually, Luke Clanton was successful at doing this in the Cognizant Classic, but we're going to leave that out of the equation and just talk about the professional golf routes. PGA Tour Americas is underneath the Korn Ferry Tour, which is underneath the PGA Tour. So it's typically a minimum of a 2-year process from turning professional and advancing through a Q school to get on to PGA Tour Americas before you would even get a chance at the PGA Tour. On average, I think a PGA Tour rookie is closer to like 29, 30, and the average college player graduating at 21 or 22. So it's nearly a decade on average for the good guys that get to the PGA Tour. So this is not common. This is about as fast as it could possibly happen in 2 years. But let's first break down PGA Tour Americas and what you would have to do to get off of that tour onto the Korn Ferry Tour. So Q School, as I broke down in a previous video that you guys seem to enjoy, costs roughly $4,500 depending on how far you have to travel to your particular Q School site. Some of them may be in your home state. Other times you may have to travel completely cross country. Sometimes you'd even have to go international. $4,500 is a ballpark estimate, $2,500 for the entry fee, and then another $2K-ish depending on hotel, rental car, how lavish you do or don't live and eat and practice, etc. The average winning score of the 5 Q School sites for PGA Tour Americas in 2024 was -16 for a 4-day tournament, so 4 under per day. And based on a 74.5 average rating of the 5 different Q School courses and a 135 slope rating, you could somewhat say that these guys were shooting 6.5 strokes under scratch golf. The handicap system doesn't exactly work that way, but for the purpose of a video like this, where we're just roughly estimating the scores that you need to shoot to advance from one tour to the next, it's close enough. No need to waste time bickering over exactly how the handicap works. The average qualifying score, which requires finishing in the top 9 out of typically 130, 135 player fields, top 9 get, they call it exempt status, but really the only person that gets fully exempt status where you get through Q School and you get to play all 16 PGA Tour Americas events is the winner. So if you don't win, then your entire season is not guaranteed, but they call it exempt status, spots 2 through 9. In order to do that, you shoot 9 under, or an average of 2.2 under per day, or an average of 4.7 under scratch golf. So you could more or less say you need to play somewhere between the ballpark of a +4 and a +5 handicap for 4 straight days in the biggest stage in all of professional golf, Q School, to get your PGA Tour Americas card. And that's where the fun starts, and that's where you start shelling out big money too. So I spoke with one of my friends today who is a current PGA Tour Americas member and played last season as well on PGA Tour Americas. He told me that it's a range, but in the middle would be roughly $3,200 of expense per week to play on PGA Tour Americas. It is a split season with 6 events in South America and 10 events in North America, primarily Canada. I think there's 1 in the States in Minnesota. Could be wrong. It might have changed this year, but 16 event season. This number, he said, goes all the way up to 4,000 some weeks, depending on how expensive the flights are and, you know, accommodations, etc. I picked a fairly low side estimate here, 3,200. So 16 events times 3,200. Let's say that you happen to win Q School and you got all 16 starts guaranteed. That would run you $51.2 thousand. We can add that onto the Q School costs. So you can see we're starting to accrue some expenses here. Now I broke down, and this took a while, so listen up and leave a like for this. Average winning score of all 16 PGA Tour Americas events, 19 under par, 4.25 under per day, or 6.5 under the course rating. I wrote down here, I looked up scorecards of all the courses and checked out the course ratings and slopes. The average is 74.3 rating, 135 slope. Pretty difficult. It gets tougher than that for sure. PGA Tour courses are even tougher, but these are not just average dog track easy courses, right? They're difficult, and this is not accounting for the fact that they're set up by PGA Tour officials, you know, creating very challenging tournament conditions. Tough pins, fast greens, thicker rough, all that type of stuff is a factor as well, and it doesn't get reflected in those numbers. So point being, the guys are shooting deep scores, right? I'm not exactly sure what the average PGA Tour winning score is, but it's probably not a whole lot different than that. And the course rating, you know, a little tougher on PGA Tour for sure, but the boys are playing good golf is all I'm trying to say. No one would argue with that. The average I think 5 times the winning score was 26 under or something. Just filthy, filthy scores. Average break-even point, 144 player fields. You need to finish in the top 20 to earn $3,200 in the event. That would be the break-even point where you earned enough money off the tournament to offset your expenses. To be fair though, this doesn't even account for taxes, and I believe you get taxed pretty hard up in Canada on earnings. Guys have always said that, so I guess that this break-even number really isn't even accurate. I should have calculated it with taxes in there, but it's super difficult to do because guys' tax brackets are different based on how much they earn, and it's just kind of a headache to do that. So for the purpose of this video, I'm not, you know, this isn't a school project. This is just a fun informational video to try to entertain you guys and pique your interest in the golf world. So we'll just say break-even point, 20 out of 144 guys. The average score for that was minus 10.25 under par, minus 2.5 roughly per round, minus 4.8 or 5 strokes under scratch golf per round to break even, and really not even, right? So what I'm basically getting at here is you need to be a +5 handicap or better, and that would be how you don't lose money on PGA Tour Americas, which is the only official way to get to the Korn Ferry Tour, other than Korn Ferry Tour Q School, but we'll get to that in a second. That's 4-stage. It costs a lot more. It's way more difficult than Americas. So this is really the only way to get to the place that can get you to the PGA Tour, and we're saying +5 handicap is like potentially not good enough to cut it. It doesn't completely simplify like that, but again, just bear with me and hear me out here, okay? So average cut, 3.1 under par. There were 4 or 5 cuts that were deeper than 7 under. Pretty disgusting, if you ask me. Minus 0.75 per round, or minus 3 under scratch golf per round just to make the cuts. But the last place checks are like $500. 65th place, $500. 40th place, $1,000. So again, anything very far outside of the top 15, top 20, you're losing money. And it, as I said, +5 handicap in order to accomplish that. The top 10 guys on the PGA Tour Americas money list at the end of an entire season get Korn Ferry Tour cards, but again, I'm pretty sure only the winner is like fully exempt in the entire 26 event Korn Ferry Tour season. They use the word exempt loosely and kind of misleadingly because it still only gets you a certain amount of starts. I'm like 90% sure on this. I haven't been at the Korn Ferry Tour level or above. I have friends that have been there, but even my friends that are there are like not super clear on exactly how this works, and it changes each season as well. The general direction that they're moving though is less cards in Q School and less Monday qualifiers. So they are eliminating opportunities for guys to advance, which is something interesting to debate and discuss the reasoning behind that. So the 10th place guy on the PGA Tour Americas Tour who got his Korn Ferry Tour card, he earned $61,000 on the year, but that was taxed, and then he had expenses, so he definitely didn't earn that. He shot 100 under par for his 35 rounds. He played 10 events, averaged 2.85 under par, or with the course rating factor, 74.3, he averaged a little more than 5 under par per round. That's average. Can you imagine that? Crazy. And that was for him to not really make a whole lot of money. It cost him 16 events. It cost him, if he had played all 16 events, it would have cost $51,000 low side estimate, and then he got taxed. So he didn't make any money. Let's just put it that way. He made no money. He put all this expense and travel and effort just to get 10th place on the money list and get some starts on the Korn Ferry Tour. And then there's other costs. I had an entire video. Click around on my YouTube channel and you'll find the one where I talked about the 1-year cost of professional golf. And that was a breakdown including Q School and then including a bunch of mini tour events. I said, if you played 40 mini tour events throughout the season at $2,500 each, that would be $100 grand right there. and then a bunch of other equipment and coaching and travel costs and stuff like that. So the figure was north of like $140,000 for 1 year of professional golf in that video. This one, I'm really just highlighting if all you did was play Q School for PGA Tour Americas and got on the tour. Of course, you probably want to play a lot of other mini tour stuff to stay sharp. This is only a 16 event season, which is 16 out of 52 weeks. That's not a whole lot of golf. So you're probably playing a lot more than that. But if you spent $4,500 on Q School, $51,000 on the tour, and then just lightly sprinkled in practice costs, whether you're a member at a country club or you buy balls and pay for twilight rounds, hard to do it for cheaper than $10,000. Coaching, hard to do it for cheaper than $6,000 if you're taking 2 lessons a month with a coach that charges $250 an hour. Equipment, clubs, fitting, $5,000, balls, gloves, clothes, cost of life, taxes. I have done it in previous videos. It's very tedious and long. If you're really interested in that breakdown, again, click around on my YouTube channel and you can watch those. But basically, I added these plus this, and I said $77,000 plus miscellaneous mini tour costs gets you through year 1. So you're making no money, you're balling out, shooting, +5, +6 handicap golf, and now you're on the Korn Ferry Tour, which is sold as the pathway to the PGA Tour. So if you want to skip this, you can play in Korn Ferry Tour Q School, which is 4 stages. A previous video where I broke down the costs, a friend of mine shared with me, Bob Bell, from his Q School run in 2019. He estimated for 4 stages somewhere in the ballpark of $15,000 to $20,000 between entry fees as well as travel costs. They make it obnoxiously expensive, and there is no purse that you're playing for until final stage. So there's no purse in America's Q School. The first 3 stages of Korn Ferry Q School, there's no purse. They're just rinsing you for the entry fee, and that's it. And then in final stage, some of the top finishers do get a purse, I believe. Even my friends that I asked that have been through Q School weren't positive on that. And it may have changed in recent years, but let's not get hung up on that. Let's talk about the cards. So they give out 6 cards at final stage Q School for the PGA Tour. I just Googled that tonight. Again, it changes all the time, so I wasn't super sure, but just checked it tonight, 6 cards, and that is out of, I don't know, maybe 10,000 or more people that started in pre-qualifying, went to first stage, second stage, final stage, and whatever figures I showed you here about, average winning score of Q School being 16 under, average qualifying score being 9 under, average ratings and slopes, it's going to be more for Korn Ferry Q School. It was so time consuming to do this, and I felt like that gave you enough of a ballpark of what type of scores we're talking about that I didn't feel like it was necessary. I think this video would get too long and I'll lose you guys if I do the same type of breakdown for Korn Ferry Tour, but just take my word for it that it's harder and it costs more. It's a higher level tour. You're only 1 step away from the PGA instead of 2, so they're making it even more difficult, naturally. So you can either finish in the top 6 at Korn Ferry Tour Q School, or you can go through PGA Tour Americas, spend a season on Korn Ferry Tour Q School. It's a 26 event season. And if you finish in the top 20 on the season money list, and again, top 10 on the money list here, I explained to you how tough that was, averaging, roughly 3 under par and more than that if you account for course rating to earn 61 grand. On the Korn Ferry Tour, you're going to have to earn a lot more than that, and you're going to have to shoot deeper than that. On a bigger stage, tougher courses, more costs involved. There's caddy fees and stuff like that as well. Very difficult, very, 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 very difficult. And so some guys might say, wow, I don't want to do all that. That's expensive, that's tough. I just want to hit the shortcut, which is Monday qualifiers, right? Monday qualifiers for the PGA Tour are 2 stages, pre-qualifying, which is usually like a week before, and then Monday qualifying, which is on the Monday of tournament week before it starts on Thursday. Pre-qualifying has a varying amount of spots. I've done a lot of these in the past with no real success. Somewhere in the ballpark of 8 to 10 spots in a pre-qualifier. And then the Monday qualifier is where it gets real, because there's a lot of guys that are actually on tour, PGA Tour, that aren't in the top 125, didn't get invited to that field, etc. So they still have entry to these Monday qualifiers. So you're playing against a lot of times names that names that you've watched on TV, and those are usually the guys that are going to swoop up those 4 spots. They just give away 4 spots each Monday to players that weren't in the PGA Tour field prior to that. And the average winning score of a Monday qualifier on the PGA Tour, 64.7. The average winning score of a Monday qualifier on the Korn Ferry Tour, 63.5. And Korn Ferry Tour, I hope I'm not misquoting this, but I'm pretty sure there's no pre-qual. I think there's just a Monday qualifier, so one day instead of two, which is maybe part of, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. The average last qualifying spot to get in, 66.4 on the PGA Tour, so for that fourth place spot, and 65.6 on the Korn Ferry Tour. How frequently do the Monday qualifiers make the cut? On the PGA Tour, 24% of the time, so like they Mondayed into the event, and 75% of the time they still miss the cut and make no money. Korn Ferry Tour, a little higher, 38% of the time. I tried to find this, I couldn't find it. For some reason, it's ringing in my brain, having heard before that you need to finish top 10 that week. So you Monday in and you're like, wow, I'm on PGA Tour. Not really, you need a freaking top 10 to get another start next week. Could be wrong, don't quote me on that. Again, I believe it definitely comes down to money. Like there's a certain amount of money you need to earn in a certain amount of time, whether it's that week or over the, and to actually get your official PGA Tour card, I think you need to earn like, I don't know, 750 grand or something by stringing together starts via top 10s or just straight up win an event. And I believe it works that way on the Korn Ferry Tour as well. I think you get the Battlestar promotion where if you win like twice or maybe 3 times on the Korn Ferry Tour, you just automatically get promoted. These things are interesting and fun to think about, but part of why I didn't do like extensive research and call everybody I know to try to find out is because they're ultra rare. Like it almost doesn't ever happen, right? Typically, it's what I just described. You go through Q School to get on PGA Tour Americas, you play exceptionally well there. Usually takes guys a couple years. It's not usually linear, like advance from one tour to the next and then stay there and play well and advance to the next. It's usually like maybe you get up to PGA Tour Americas, but you don't have full status. You play a couple events, you make a cut, you miss a cut, you fall back off and you try again next year. Or maybe you get on Korn Ferry for a little bit, you get a couple starts, but you don't make enough money to retain your card and you fall back down to Americas. So it's like, and then I didn't even talk about mini tours, which mean nothing in this whole equation, which is where most guys are because they don't require qualifying school to get on. So there's mini tours all over. Most states have them, as well as state opens, which any professional golfer can sign up for. That's where most guys spend their time playing, and they are really just a practicing ground, but they still cost a ton of money, and the competition level is virtually the same. The depth of the field is not the same, but the cut line and the winning score is usually identical to these tours. And again, you're really just practicing there and trying to prove to yourself that you have what it takes before you start going to the Q schools and investing money in that. So anyway, I don't share any of this to be a downer or be a complainer. I'm sure it's easy for some people to perceive it that way. This stuff is just fascinating and it's deeply impacted my own life. I tried for 8 years playing on various mini tours. I played in 5 Q schools, one for the Korn Ferry Tour in Nebraska, one for the DP World Tour in Italy, 2 for PGA Tour Latino America. Well, one when it was called Latino America, and I went to Argentina for that. Another in Florida, and then a third time for PGA Tour Americas, which now is the combination of Americas and Canada. Played that in Scottsdale. So I've tried 5 times. I've never made it. And so the rest of my experience is on mini tours. And I've seen a lot of incredible players. I played with a lot of incredible players. 99.9% of them that I thought were better than me haven't made it. And so really what I'm getting at with all of this is not just complaining for the sake of complaining and being like, wow, golf is really hard and this sucks. I'm offering a solution. So stay tuned. I've been talking about it in some videos on Instagram. I'm building my own damn tour and I'm going to change everything because I don't think that this is the way the pro golf hierarchy and system should be run. It's the way it's currently run. And that's usually the way monopolies and stuff are until a disruptor comes along and says, wow, this is a problem and I'm going to change it. And so far, the court of public opinion of pro golfers seems to be massively on my side. And I have a tremendous amount of momentum, which is exciting. And I've already come to an agreement with a partner. And we're moving forward extremely fast. So I've greenlit this project. I'm not building a mini tour. There's nothing mini about it. It is going to completely change the landscape of professional golf. So if anything I said in this video resonated with you and you're like, yeah, that's been my experience or my friend's experience or my boyfriend's experience or anyone you know, my son, you know, don't fear. I'm working diligently, and I believe I'm the type of person that's capable of actually making a dent in this pretty challenging space of professional golf. Many have tried. I don't think anything that drastic has really ever been done, but I'm approaching it in a completely different way. And this is more like 10x thinking than 2x thinking. It's not like, oh, let's just marginally improve the current mini tour model. It's like a completely different thing. Can't share too much with you guys yet, but just stay tuned. Follow if you want to get, or subscribe if you'd like updates on how I'm building that. I'm documenting my process of building it and involving the fans and recruiting players left and right, and I'm very excited. So I think if you're still watching, chances are something that I said has struck a nerve with you and resonated, so you'd probably be wise to subscribe and turn on post notifications. Would love to hear what you think about all this in the comments. Please leave a like if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it. Either way, appreciate you taking the time to watch it, and I look forward to see you guys in the next video. Peace.